During training, I was told my background would make things harder for the unit. Staff Sergeant Caldwell pulled me aside on day 3. He didn't even wait until we were fully out of earshot from the others. I've read your file. He crossed his arms. Your father served too, didn't he? Yes, Staff Sergeant. Then you know what people are going to say. He leaned closer. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm going to be watching you closer than anyone else here. I didn't respond. I just nodded and went back to formation. The whispers started that same week. I caught pieces of conversations that stopped the second I walked into the barracks. Something about my father. Something about what he did. Private Reyes was the only one who talked to me normally. Everyone else kept their distance like I was contaminated. Week 2, my gear went missing. Boots, canteen, half my uniform. I reported it and Caldwell looked at me like I'd stolen it myself. Probably sold it. He said it loud enough for others to hear. Runs in the family. I found my gear in a dumpster behind the mess hall. Someone had slashed the boots. Week 3, I failed an inspection I should have passed. My rifle was clean. My bunk was tight. But Caldwell found issues nobody else would have seen. You're not cut out for this. He said it in front of everyone. Your father wasn't either. Look how that ended. I still didn't know what my father had supposedly done. I called my mom that night from the payphone at 9 p.m. Mom, what happened with Dad during his service? She went quiet for a long time. Who's been talking to you? Everyone. But nobody will tell me what actually happened. She sighed. Your father reported his commanding officer for stealing supplies and selling them. The CO had connections. Made your father's life hell. Discharged him dishonorably on false charges. My blood went cold. Dad was the whistleblower? He did the right thing and got punished for it. The CO retired with full benefits 2 years later. She paused. Why? What are they saying about him? That he was the thief. The line went silent. Then my mother's voice came back harder than I'd ever heard it. The man who framed your father was Colonel Stephen Caldwell. I almost dropped the phone. Staff Sergeant Caldwell. That was his son. The next morning, I requested a meeting with the battalion commander. Lieutenant Colonel Avery Lawson was old school. Tough, but fair. Everyone said he hated politics. I sat across from him and told him everything. The missing gear. The failed inspections. The whispers. Then I told him about my father. Lawson's face didn't change while I talked. When I finished, he pulled out a file from his desk. I know exactly who your father is. He slid the file toward me. I served with him. He was one of the most honorable men I ever met. I opened the file. It was my father's original service record, before it was altered. Commendations. Leadership awards. A recommendation for officer training. Colonel Caldwell destroyed your father to cover his own crimes. Lawson leaned back. I've been waiting 15 years for someone to reopen this. What do you mean? I mean, I've had a file on the Caldwell family since 1987. I just never had a witness willing to come forward. He stood up. Staff Sergeant Caldwell has been running the same scheme his father did. Skimming supplies, falsifying records, targeting anyone who gets too close. I stared at him. You knew this whole time? I suspected, but I needed proof. He walked to the window. Your father refused to testify after the discharge. Said he just wanted to move on with his life. I respected that, but I never stopped watching. What happens now? Now I have a recruit who's been systematically targeted by the same family that destroyed his father's career. Lawson turned to face me. Every incident you reported has been documented. Every failed inspection. Every piece of missing gear. He picked up his phone and dialed. Send MPs to the training facility. Staff Sergeant Caldwell is to be detained immediately. I watched through the window as they led Caldwell away in handcuffs an hour later. He looked at me as they walked him past. Pure hatred in his eyes. The investigation took 3 months. They found everything. Stolen equipment worth over $200,000. Falsified training records. 6 other recruits who'd been forced out under false pretenses. Caldwell got 12 years. My father's discharge was officially overturned 6 months later. Full benefits restored. Back pay for 15 years of service he'd been denied. He called me the night he got the letter. I spent 15 years being called a thief and a disgrace. His voice cracked. I'd given up on anyone ever knowing the truth. I know, Dad. He was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. This whole time, I told you to keep your head down. Don't make waves. And you walked right into the same hornet's nest I did. I smiled. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.